I know you've been waiting for this one, so let's not waste time, shall we? Macros are probably one of the biggest time-saving things we have as adjusters. And we have a lot of time-saving things. As far as I'm concerned, macros are kind of at the top. So what is a macro? In simplest terms, a macro is just a saved set of line items. For those of you old school guys, you don't record a macro in Xactimate the same you would have in, say, Lotus 123 or something like that from back in the 80s. You just build a set of line items. For example, all the line items you might need to replace a typical shed roof, and you save that as a recallable set of line items. So let's create a macro so that you can see just what the heck I'm talking about. Open up Xactimate and open a project. Any project, doesn't matter. Preferably not a real one that you're going to be sending up, because you don't want to accidentally send up a macro mess around line items in there, right? Go to Estimate Items, and it doesn't matter where you do this. Just start dropping in your line items. Make sure that they're in the right order, or they're in an order that makes sense in the order of operations. We'll just do like a shed roof. So tear off, replace, felt, drip edge, etc. Then we're going to select all those line items and click on this button right here, Save Macro. For the code, just type in something that will make it easy for you to remember what this is. In this case, we're going to call it Shed 240, since it's a 3-tab shed roof. If you need to, you can add a description. For example, if you have several similar ones, this might make sense. Definitely save line item customizations as well as include attached notes. Hit OK, and you've saved your very first ever macro. To recall your macro, look for this little tab down here that says macros, click it, and then start typing your macro code name if you have a long list like I do. And there it is. A cool keyboard shortcut is to hit Control-M, and that will also bring up your macro selection thing. It's a lot easier if you ask me. Okay, so say your store manager emails you a bunch of MCX files that he says are macros that you need. What do you do with those? If you have a non-trial version of Xactimate, you can import those here. Go to your main dashboard where you see local, cloud, etc., and click on Tools. The first thing you'll see is Data Transfer. Click on Import. Then, where it says Location, click there and select the folder where the macros are that you received. And be sure to unzip them before you start doing this. To do that, just double-click the zipped file you got from the email. After you select the location, then hit Select Data. All files that Xactimate knows how to read and that are in the folder that you selected under Location are going to appear here. Check off each one you want and then hit Import. You'll see a message saying Import Successful, and then you can close this out. So say if you've got some juicy macros that you want to share with friends and family, you can just do the reverse of this. Go into Tools, Data Transfer, and then Export. Select the folder location, select Data, and in this case you'll see a big list of all the stuff that you can export. We're going to choose macro and then check off the ones we want to give out. Hit Export and let it do its magic. To go back here for a second, you can see that you can also export a project. So if a desk adjuster or a contractor was asking for your ESX, you can export this file to a folder on your desktop and then attach that to an email and send it away. Okay, and one last thing. Did you know that you can add macros to a sketch diagram? Let's try one. We're going to jump into an estimate and create a roof called Grandma's She Shed. Make sure that you have Grandma's Shed fully selected before you try to drop a macro on it. Then we'll just hit Control-M, pick 240 to replace the roof, and boom, there it is. We can double check that the estimate is in the shed by going back to Estimate Items right here. And because we just added a new sketch for Grandma's She Shed, we're going to have to scroll to the bottom. And here are the line items. Of course, we'll want to edit these because she doesn't have a chimney or valleys or lightning protection or a bunch of these other things. And we can move Grandma's She Shed up a bit so that it's under other structures and it still follows the flow of our estimate. We can, and just all we have to do is just drag it right up where we want to. And we can of course preview what this looks like by going to Documents, Reports, and then hitting Preview. And there's her shed. And finally, when it comes to your macro and putting it on a sketch or even on a dimensioned room, is you want to be sure that you're using the right calculation codes. And in the calculation box, where you type in numbers for the measurements of things, the areas, then the lengths and all that sort of thing, you can also type in words or abbreviations of words that represent certain things. For example, SQ is squares. You can even save your macro to say, for hip roofs, you could say SQ times 1.15. You can say EVE for your drip edge or your gutters that run along the eave, or your gutter apron that runs along the eave. You can say rake, that goes for your fascia, or your drip edge that runs along the rakes of the roof. You can use ridge, you can use valley, you can use a whole bunch of different words in these macros so that you don't have to go back through and put all that information in by hand after you've dropped it on your sketch. We're trying to save time here. Okay, that does it for part 4. I hope that was helpful for you and will give you a leg up when you're trying to increase your speed without losing quality. In the final video, part 5, we're gonna wrap this sucker up and tell you where you can download some free macros, estimate template, diary templates, GLR templates, a sketch calculation cheat sheet, and all the other things that we referred to in this video training. See you in the next lesson.